read it into the buffer, and then we use our crypt to write the encrypted data from the buffer at the length of the buffer, whatever the length of how much we've read in, which is the input stream anyway. And we're pretty much done. We can now we can now close everything. We can go file in close, file in close, fs in close, fs out close, and crypt close. It should be, yeah, crypt close, yeah. And what we can do is we can print off what's inside this file. So what we can do is we can go console.write line file.read all text from our encrypted data and see what's inside. Well, what's inside? Did it encrypt it? All right, so now let's encrypt. Cannot access a closed file. Oh yeah, I should close it in order. I should close this first. But actually, if you close that, this gets closed. If you close this, this gets closed anyway. But let's be safe. Let's encrypt. All right, so this is the encrypted data here. That's what it looks like. Hello there, you know. All right, so let's have a look at our time. Good with time. So that encrypted our data, and our data encrypted looks pretty much like gibberish there. What we're going to do now is we're going to create our decryptor. Now our decryptor pretty much is very similar to our encryptor, but we've got to swap things around and turn it into a decryptor. So what I'll do is I'll double click on this file, the button, and I'll copy and paste this code. Copy and pretty much paste this code like so. And now I need to do a few changes for our decryption. So for our decryption, our input file will be this thing. This will be our input file. So we're going to take this and shove into our input file. And our output file technically should be the original input file. But I'm not going to use that. I'm going to go decrypted file just to make sure it can decrypt nicely. And then I'll change this to input file. And our input file, we again want to open, and our output file, which is our decrypted file, we want to create. Now the decryptor takes in the input file. Takes in the input file and we need to give it a decryptor, an AES. We need to get the AES to create the decryptor for it. And we're reading now. We're reading from the input file, which is encrypted. This thing is encrypted. We're reading the encrypted data, and then we're going to write it out. And as we write it, we decrypt it. That's pretty much it's backwards basically. So these are all the same, except that this one now we're reading from the decryption stream, and over here we write to our output, and this is our decrypt there. And we want to have a look at what's inside our decryptor file. Let's try that. And there you go. The file's in decrypted, and you can see that that's what we're expecting. So we know this thing works now. So that's great. So what we can do now is we can change our decrypted file into our input file instead. And now we replace it. So we literally encrypt the actual input file and then replace it, and then decrypt the input file and then replace it. So this encrypted text should all be input file now. Alright, so we got our encrypted data here, and we need to replace it with our input file. So we read in our input file, and our output file is going to be the same. And we've got to play around with the closes now. We've got to be very careful with the closes. So what I'll do is I'll try again. I'll replace these with input. And what we're going to do is when we finish reading into the buffer, we should straight away close that file. And then we will decrypt it and close the file. Let's try that. Oh yeah, that's right. Can't do that yet. Need to do this straight after, right here. So I need to close the input file first before I can, and I need to, so we need to play around with this code a little bit, and I need to create the decryptor. So I need to do it one at a time. So I need to rearrange my code. Get my input file, read it in, and then close it. Then open my input file as an output file, and then I want to write the encrypted data into it and then close it. Let's try that. Alright, so we encrypted data. So it works just the same, except now we're encrypting the same data. And this is input file. Now this got to be careful at this point, because we're replacing the file. Oh, every time we generate a new file. So I should close that one off because I've already encrypted for now. So I can turn this on if I stuff up. So I've already encrypted the file. Now I got to decrypt that file. So this must be input file now. And now I gotta do this in the right order. So the first thing I'm using is the decrypt. So I need to grab this one and put this with this one. And this output file is later, after I finish with the input files. After I finish with the input files. So this one now I need to close here. Alright. So I have my input file, I put in my decryptor, I create a buffer, and I use the decryptor to read into the buffer, then I close everything. So it's in buffer right now, it's in here. So then I use my buffer to write it out to an output file, and as I decrypt it, and then close the output file. Alright, that should be good. Let's try to decrypt now. And there we go. Phew, that's got to be careful when you do this. You got to be very careful. All right, so now that we got our encryptor and decryptor, this password, we can put any password now. We can take it from a text box. Let's have a look at our time. You know what? I'll let you do that. All right, I'll let you do that. I'll give you a snapshot of the code here. This is the snapshot of the code. Snapshot of the code. You can pause when you need to. Snapshot of the code. Pause if you need to. Thanks for listening.